Hello and welcome to Silverstone, the unofficial home of British motor racing and one of the most historic circuits around the world in global motorsport. My name's James Roberts and today I bring you action live for round 13 of the GB3 Championship. But before we get to the action of this weekend here at Silverstone, let's find out what happened in the last round of action at Snetterton.
Highlights from the Snetterton weekend as GB3 would get underway. It was Matthew Rees from pole position. James Headley, though, was having the best start in the number 4 from 4th position, and his Ardent VRD car would go around the outside of the entire field to take over the race lead. There was battles behind Kuharczyk versus Rees, but unfortunately for Nico Christodoulou, he'd go off on the right-hand side of the shot, courtesy of losing his front wing going through Palmer, and unfortunately he'd drop down to the rear of the field and would retire from the race. Going through turn 1, Costa Paris was having a bit of an issue. He'd spin off over to the right-hand side of the shot to the left-hand side of the circuit. He'd rejoin in 21st place and would have a lot of work to do. Instantly he'd be back on it though, down the inside of Max Esterson and getting himself up into 20th position where these two were continuing their fight. Esterson having struggled after starting from the back in all 3 of the races this weekend. This was a great battle though. Jared Oberski versus Oliver Stewart. Oberski around the outside trying to hang on through Palmer, but it was Stewart with the inside line and the whole shot for the move. It was getting tight though for the race lead. Matthew Rees closing in. James Headley just about able to hang on through all of this. He'd come through the final corner to take his 2nd victory of the season, but not after having to deal with a very tight battle behind. Matthew Rees able to keep him close company. Callum Voisin in 3rd. On to the second race of the weekend, and it was Callum Voisin this time starting from pole position. Timothy Kuharczyk was really hard battling with him as they would head through the first corner. The Rodin Carlin car just about able to hang on, but the pair of them so tight heading through the first corner at Riches. That would last all the way down to their hairpin, and to be fair, for quite a lot throughout this race. Kuharczyk was desperate for his first victory in the championship. He'd looked down the inside with an aggressive move, wasn't able to do so on that occasion. Alex Dunn having a big lock-up. We wondered if that would be bad for his tyres. Thankfully, though, he was okay through the race. The battle for the race lead was on though. Callum Voisin feeling the pressure. Tomek Kuharczyk looking for his first victory in his GB3 career. He'd send it down the inside aggressively into the hairpin, and there would be contact between the two. A retirement for Callum Voisin, and after the race it would be a disqualification for Tomek Kuharczyk. He would still continue on in the race. He would still try and have a battle throughout the race, but unfortunately his day was basically done in race 2 of the weekend. Noah Ping would restart the race as the race leader. Alex Dunn behind, and James Headley would be in 3rd position. A big look to the inside from Mackenzie Cresswell on Joseph Loke later on in the race, and Loke would go for a big spin. The championship leader relinquishing all of that pressure as he would go for a spin. Noah Ping though was absolutely fantastic, taking his 2nd victory of the season ahead of Alex Dunn and James Headley. As we would head onto the reverse grid race though, it was Daniel Mavliatov starting from pole position, Arthur Roujon and then Styko as well. Jared Woberski getting involved in the mix as they would head their way 3 wide, just about coming down into the first corner. Mavliatov having an excellent start and trying to pull away from the field. John Bennett and Gerard Shea were also quite close towards the back end of the top 10. Mavliatov with a bit of a lock-up coming down into the hairpin on the first lap, but thankfully he was okay. Nearly opened up the opportunity for Arthur Roujon to make his way through. That did not work out on this occasion. Matthew Rees having a fight with Timothy Kuharczyk in the race, but Kuharczyk having a big spin going off the circuit, getting a lot of grass into his radiator, and unfortunately he would retire from the race. Out wide Woberski would go. It would catch the eye of a few behind, including this from Morales and Mackenzie Cresswell. Morales getting sent down the escape road, Mackenzie Cresswell with front wing damage, as Alex Dunn and Joseph Loke, the top 2 in the championship, having an enormous battle here for 10th position, the final spot inside the top 10, and Callum Voisin in there as well. We saw this smooth, one of the best we saw all weekend. Voisin around the outside of Agostini in perfect style. Excellent race between Voisin and Dunn, and he was working his way up to 11th position. He'd try a couple of moves on Joseph Loke, including this one into Brundle and Nelson, but Loke's defence was absolutely fantastic. For JHR Developments, he was hanging on to 10th spot. An important battle when it comes to the championship. He is in a tight fight with Voisin and with Dunn. Someone who's not involved in that fight, but still looking for a victory. Hill Speed taking their 2nd victory of the season. Mavliatov across the line ahead of Roujon and Styko.
So I'm now here with John Bennett of Rodin Carlin. John, you had a really good weekend last time we were here at Silverstone. Let's talk a bit more about that. What went down?
Yeah, we got a double pole and 2 race wins on track. Got a penalty in both races, which isn't what you want. Demoted to P2 and P4. But yeah, pace was really strong all weekend. So yeah, looking to repeat that, especially the double pole. So.
Now, what's key for you guys to remember to actually keep that pace? Because it's been a few weeks since you were racing now, John, so how are you going to guarantee that you can bring that Silverstone pace from last time to this weekend?
Yeah. Well, track conditions are always different. It's a bit cooler this weekend, pretty grey. But yeah, I mean, we'll go over the data and onboard from the previous sessions. We've just had testing. So yeah, always changing things on the car, see what works, see what doesn't. But yeah, we're confident in the car. We're confident that I know how to drive around here. And it'll just be trying to maximise that going into quality tomorrow.
Now, do you like a slightly cooler Silverstone? Because people this time of year would be hoping for some bright sunshine. I know I would, because it could top up my tan. But personally for yourself, do you enjoy a slightly cooler track, slightly cooler conditions?
Yeah, don't really mind. I mean, last time at Silverstone it was completely full wet in quali, and that obviously went well. So yeah, I don't really mind if it's wet or dry. I mean, cooler's a bit nicer in the car, don't sweat so much. But yeah, I mean, I do like when it's high grip, so who knows? I mean, it might end up raining tomorrow, so.
Well, give us a sneak preview then. Final thing to end on, your prediction of where you might finish this weekend. Can we expect more wins, more pole positions from yourself?
Well, that's what I'm aiming for. That's always got to be what the goal is, so yeah, that's what I'll be trying.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, John.
Cheers, thanks.
Let's take a look then at the car we'll be racing in 2023. The same car we were racing in 2022, the Tata's MSV 022. A fan favourite amongst those watching and a favourite amongst drivers as well. A tricky beast with a 2-litre 250 brake horsepower engine with all that power going to the rear wheels, being slowed down by Brembo brakes. A look then over the rear end of the car, and we can see the 6-speed sequential gearbox, all controlled by the paddles on either side of the driver's wheel. Each car will get 8 tyres across the weekend, and those tyres belonging to Pirelli, and they can use them as they see fit across the weekend. A diffuser was introduced last year to give extra downforce to the rear of the car. As we head round, we can see the new safety features that were introduced last year, a halo adding 12 kilograms to the car and much needed safety as we head into 2023. The underfloor as well was brand new for 2022, and an adjustable front wing as well, which the teams will use to adjust to maximise performance on each race weekend.
James Headley, championship contender still at this point. I know at part of the season at the start you didn't even know you'd be here.
Yeah.
And now we're still well within the championship fight. Silverstone for the second time. Can it go better than last time, or do you reckon it's pretty much on par?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the goal. Like, we knew we struggled here last time, and you know, we thought we knew what to do. But we have tried a lot of stuff over the past few days, and it's been a massive challenge for us, to be honest. But you know, I'm still optimistic in quali. Quali's where it counts, and yeah, we've got to find something. But yeah, it's been a tough 2 days.
Yeah, tough few days, but looking ahead to the weekends, what are your hopes for this weekend?
I mean, a bit of rain would be nice. But honestly, I mean, obviously really hoping that I don't need that, but I don't really like using the word hope. So yeah, a bit of a rain dance would be good, and a bit of rain. That's always nice. But yeah, just not as wet as it was last time, because that was horrific.
It was very, very well. Of course, last time out we didn't really get a race on Saturday, but it's been a few weeks since the last round. Just chatting to you then, you've been up to quite a lot since then. You've been working behind the scenes on both your driving and other things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously this break, just, you know, working on strengths and weaknesses, but haven't really had that much time. Just some sponsorship events, and just also playing a bit of other sports, you know, like tennis. Tennis has been going on, so that kind of inspired me to play a bit of tennis, a bit more golf as well. But yeah, no, just staying active and keeping the mind fresh.
Yeah, so if all else fails and everything goes, you know, barely up, then at least you can, you know, be at Wimbledon next year, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a golf course just down the road as well, so I always just go in the driving range later and hit a few balls and relieve some stress.
Yeah, exactly. All right, James, good luck for this weekend. Thanks for chatting to us.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, after a scintillating qualifying session, I'm pleased to say, Matthew Rees, you've qualified on pole by just over 0.2 of a second. How does it feel to get the pole at Silverstone?
It's quite good. Last time out we had the pace to go really far. Fortunately had a bit of a mare in quali. Yeah, we've got the pace to go far. We need to change the balance a little bit, soften it up. Hopefully we'll be strong for the race run, but it's looking okay so far.
Now, you got a podium the last time you were here at Silverstone when we were here previously for GB3 competition. Can you match that again, and could we potentially see you convert pole position into a race win?
I think I can hopefully match my race too, where I was leading by about 10 seconds. But yeah, we'll see what we can do. Car looks strong. I feel like I'm in a good space, so hopefully we can repeat the same.
Well, thank you very much, Matthew, and once again, congratulations on getting pole position. Well, Piers, a really interesting qualifying session. Really exciting to see the action out on track. And we've heard from the pole sitter Matthew Rees. We've also heard from yourself how difficult it is to navigate this circuit. It's quite tricky in those GB3 cars. They're going really fast. But let's talk more about Matthew Rees. On pole by 2.2 tenths. That's fantastic. And Kuharczyk, the fastest from testing, over 2.5 tenths down on the pole sitter. I mean, let's talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, Matthew Rees, a really, really strong qualifying session. Pole in race 1 and in race 2. 2.5 tenths clear in first place compared to second, which is impressive when you look at the whole grid. A second covers you down from first to 16th place. So, you know, really, really good lap from him. And again, in second race as well, he'll be on pole. The top 5, the same for race 1 and race 2. So most of the names we're expecting up there, Loke, Dunn, Voisin's up there in 4th as well. But a bit of a disappointing qualifying session from our championship rival, James Headley, down in 13th, actually.
What do you think went wrong for Headley today, actually? Let's talk a little bit more about that, because you've mentioned he's a strong driver, championship favourite in many people's eyes. What do you think went wrong today? Is it too cold out there, too windy? We are in a very exposed Silverstone circuit.
Yeah, just as
and it's starting to rain now as well, so the race later is even more interesting.
Yeah, exactly, and we're expecting some showers over the weekend. But I spoke to Headley yesterday, and he was saying that in testing they just weren't quite there. He said he's not quite comfortable in the car, something's not quite right, because he's normally been the fastest in his team or up there with the rest of his teammates, and he's been lacking a bit behind. And he was fast here the last time we were here at Silverstone a few weeks or a couple of months ago, and just not being able to extract as much out of that car for whatever reason. I'm sure they'll get to the bottom of it, but a tricky start to the weekend, and it will definitely put him on the back foot. Although, of course, we have the reverse grid race 3, where hopefully he can make some points back in that one with some good overtakes.
You're going very nicely to something I want to talk about next, actually. For those who are watching at home at the moment who might not have seen GB3 action before, that are tuning in for the first time, first of all, hello. Piers says hello as well.
Hi.
But why is it important that the top 5 are the same for 2 races this weekend? What's going on in that sort of setting?
So, similar to Formula 1 qualifying or any other championship, race 1 is your fastest time from qualifying, but then in race 2 it's your second fastest time. So you have to set a couple of laps in the 20-minute qualifying session. And we've seen the top 5 are in the same order in race 1 and race 2, so pretty much holding station there. But then there's a few changes down the rest of the field, because if you only get one good lap in, you're a bit further down. And then, of course, race 3, the reverse grid, where the whole grid will be reversed because everyone is within 103%. So that means that you can gain some points for overtaking, and also gives you an opportunity to maybe pull away from your rivals, even though you might be starting together with them at the back of the field.
And even with these changing conditions as well, the change-up of the grid is really going to affect the racing. But the rain starting to fall upon this Silverstone circuit, that's going to have something to do with lap times changing, pace changing as well. What's going through the mind of drivers then? You've been in that seat yourself before.
It just adds another variable. We spoke to James Headley actually yesterday as well, and he was saying he was hoping for some rain, because he thinks he's a bit stronger in the wet than he is in the dry this weekend. But yeah, especially if they're on the grid and we're going to be gridding soon. If it's raining like this, then yeah, it's a bit of a headache for the teams and drivers, because Silverstone's such a big circuit. It's part of the circuit. It's raining here right now on the start-finish straight, but it could be completely dry over by Stowe and Vale.
Absolutely, and we're going to finish on this last point, because I know you love talking about it, because I've been told secretly that you love talking about it. The actual circuit, the tarmac here at Silverstone,
yes.
It's very different to the tarmac that they might have raced on in other tracks here in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really high grip. It was resurfaced, I believe, a couple of years ago, and it's really grippy, quite an open sort of net, so which means that it dries quite quickly, but it's quite high grip even in wet conditions. So you might be going to slicks a little earlier than maybe some other circuits.
That could be the biggest call. Who goes to slicks first if we do indeed have a wet race? Well, let's see what happens in GB3 action this weekend.
This weekend, we head off to the home of British motorsport, to a circuit which straddles the county lines of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire. It's a fantastic venue that stood the test of time in the world of motorsport, opened back in the late 1940s. It has been a true test for many of our drivers for years and years and years, courtesy of some of the most incredible corners in world motorsports: Magus, Beggars and Chapel, Stowe, going around Club, up through Abbey. It is a fantastic venue. Of course, the start-finish straight for us out of Woodcote down towards Copse Corner this weekend over the 18 turns. Some of the most well-known in all of the world, including the end of the Wellington Straight, where you've got the Brooklands Corner. 5.9 kilometres or 3.6 miles in old money as they wrestle their way around the circuit, which has very little when it comes to elevation change, courtesy of it being an old airfield back in the 40s. And that is a look around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit we'll be racing this weekend.
Well, the clock continues to count down. We are getting seconds closer to the first race of this weekend's action here at Silverstone Piers. I am beyond excited right now, but we've had a quick last-minute change to the plan of action, what we're going to be doing here today. I see a sign up now saying 2 green flag laps. For everyone watching at home, can you please explain to us what that means and the impact it has on these drivers?
Yeah, we've had a few showers in the last sort of half an hour. The track is dry, the previous race is out there on slick tyres, and we expect it to be dry. However, Silverstone is such a big circuit, it might be a bit damp somewhere else. So for safety, they're giving them an extra green flag lap, which means they do instead of just 1 lap round before they go to the grid, they'll be doing 2 laps just to make sure that they think they can get all the tyre temperature they need. So we can have a safe start to the race. That will reduce the race distance by 1 lap as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And speaking of which, speaking of the race, let's go find out what the drivers think. We're going to go and see, we can have a chat quickly with Jared Weberski. I'm going to lean in here now. Jared, lovely to see you again. You can position here on the grid.
I think overall we have a pretty good race car. Our race pace has been pretty good at testing, so yeah, we need to focus on getting a good start and picking up as many as we can.
And you've had a stronger qualifying, it must be said, than in previous weeks. Has the car felt really good this weekend? The track feeling good for you as well?
Yeah, the team have done quite a lot of work over the summer break to fix the issues we've had in the last 2 rounds. So yeah, still not where we want to be, but a lot better for sure. Yeah, just need to get some good places, yeah.
And now last thing, I will leave you in just a second, don't worry, but have you got a contingency plan for that big black cloud behind us?
Yeah, I think if it rains it's going to be quite interesting, but I think, you know, the race isn't that long. I think we should be all right.
Awesome, thank you very much, Jared. Piers, I see you're with another driver out of the grid here.
Yes, I'm over here with Oliver Stewart. Oliver racing for the Elite mode. The Elite GB3 car always goes well at Silverstone. It's a strong qualifying from you, but also Mackenzie right up the front. What can you do in this race?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot we can do in this race because obviously we're quite far up and it's actually our best qualifying this season. I made a big mistake in qualifying which cost me at least 3 attempts, so there's a lot of potential in this car and myself to go even further up. Silverstone's one of the best tracks because it's not tight and there's a lot of straights, so there's overtaking opportunities everywhere, so I think we can definitely do a good job.
You said overtaking opportunities everywhere. Car quick in a straight line, is it?
Yeah, I feel like we've got a bit of pace under us in the straight line and everywhere it's a good all-rounder, so yeah, we'll just need to see in comparisons to the other cars what we can do, and I think with the pace that Mackenzie's got and the pace that I have, P2, I think we can be right there.
Amazing, great. Thanks for chatting to us, Oliver. Of course, it's best qualifying of the season, I believe, James driver.
That's right, I've been able to grab Chris to do that. Asked Nico, how do you feel in this position? You're going to be able to challenge from the front, you're right up here with the pack leaders.
Yeah, I think after the first few settles in, we'll be in a good start and make as many positions up as I can.
Now, is the car feeling fast for you this weekend? We've seen a lot of more changing conditions in this race. Is that going to affect your approach in any way?
I think we'll be pretty good. So I'd actually be pretty excited if it started raining mid-race.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Best of luck with today's race as well. Let's see, who have you found now, Piers?
Yeah, we've got Zach Taylor for Chris Dittman Racing. Zach, this has probably been one of your strongest qualifyings of the year so far. Clearly you're pretty hooked up at this Silverstone Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, the team did a good job in qualifying, getting the car in the right window. I think it's about time really. We got a good qualifying session down, just so we're in a good position to race.
It was so close, qualifying a second down to I think 16th place, and of course Matthew was a couple of tenths clear at the front, so it's going to be really tight. The first lap's going to be very important though, I reckon.
Yeah, it's just going to be about keeping everything clean. First lap nice and clean, but try and make a few positions as we go.
Thanks very much, Zach. Yeah, great to chat to some of the drivers there.
It's fantastic. I love getting in the minds of these drivers and finding out what their thoughts are before a race. And everyone seems to have a plan of action of what they want to do in this race. And Piers, it's going to be really interesting actually to see how they attack the start. From your own personal experiences going into that first corner, it's a very long looping right-hander. What would be your plan of action?
Well, it depends on which side of the grid you're starting. You can hang it around the outside. However, of course, if you go too wide, you might, if you gain too many places, get a look in from the stewards. It's all about just keeping your nose clean and then setting yourself up well for Maggots and Beckett's. The launch is the most important thing, though. You know, all the drivers need to get away well. You can, to gain 2 or 3 places during the places in the bag. So we're getting on that. Practice start, so won't be quite the same as temperature, but no. The start of the race is going to be most important, but we know Silverstone does give a few overtaking opportunities. It's still not easy because of the dirty air, but it's going to be it's interesting. Cars are starting up, I believe.
Well, the cars are starting up, and I will let Piers go because he's got to fly up to the commentary boxes now. But as you can hear, the roar of the GB3 engines has begun. Matthew Rees is heading out onto the track now, obviously our pole sitter from a brilliant qualifying session. And you can hear them roaring around me, ready to go. The drivers have their action plans inside their heads, and you can see Zach Taylor now flying past us as well. The high-tech's just taking some time to get to the grid, but let's join Piers up in commentary for the action now for race 1 of this weekend's Silverstone action.
Here we are for the first race of the Silverstone Grand Prix weekend. The second time we're here this year. Again, it's going to be a great race weekend. I'm Piers Pryor. You just saw me on the grid, but I'm joined alongside me once again this year by Max Maserati. Max, great to have you back in the commentary box. Of course, you have experience here in GB4 last year, but also in GB3 in years gone by. It's a great day for racing. Weather's looking a little bit changeable, but it's dry for now.
Yeah, it's been quite an exciting day. I mean, it's been raining and then been dry, and it dries so quickly here as well. As me and you both experienced when we raced here together, you know, it can be so tricky. You might think, oh, well, it's definitely going to be wet. Everyone's going to go on wet, and suddenly by the first lap, the circuit's fully dried out.
Yeah, 19.5 degrees. It's quite sunny quite warm when the sun's out, but definitely windy. You can see the Pirelli flags in the background there. A tailwind down to turn 1, which is a bit of a crosswind going down the Hanger Straight, which would then come into a headwind going through Stowe. So carrying a lot of speed through Stowe at the end of the Hanger Straight, potentially sort of reducing that braking zone a little bit. But that'll mean that then you can definitely have a go into Village in the loop, which we had a look at yesterday evening.
Yeah, and it looks very strong, the wind today as well, so that could be catching quite a few people out. You know, maybe in qualifying, maybe that's, you know, what some of the drivers would have been reporting back to their engineers, that, you know, the wind was really strong, especially at Stowe, where it's a little bit elevated compared to the rest of the circuit.
The wind definitely plays a factor in these GB3 cars. They've got big wings on them. We're just getting away for our 2 formation laps. All of these drivers are on either tyres they've used in qualifying or new tyres. Some of them have got stickers on, but Matthew Rees leads us away from pole position, and it's all about getting temperature in the tyres on these 2 warm-up laps. Shouldn't be too difficult with the track temperature going up a little bit. I'm very sure we'll be able to give you a grid, but yeah, at this point of the race, it makes it a bit easier with 2 formation laps, doesn't it, Max? Especially on a long circuit like Silverstone Grand Prix.
Yeah, it does. It helps the more or less experienced drivers basically get some heat in. Kind of ruins it maybe a bit for us because it's quite, you know, cool. It's that hard work of getting the heat in on the warm-up lap that can really, really change the dynamic of the race. So giving 2 extra warm-up laps, it can limit that.
Right, let's have a look through the grid. So on pole position, we have Matthew Rees, and then alongside him, Mackenzie Cresswell with another strong qualifying at Silverstone. Temek Kuhashik, he was rapid in practice, in 3rd, and Callum Voisin, another championship rival, in 4th place. In 5th, Joseph Loke, our winningest driver of the year with 3 wins, alongside Alex Dunn, another current championship leader, in 6th place. 7th, we have Zach Taylor with a strong qualifying, and Nico Christodoulou in 8th for Arden VRD. 9th place, we spoke to Oliver Stewart on the grid, alongside Jared Waberski for Fortec, a strong qualifying from him after struggles of late. Noah Ping in 11th place lines up alongside James Headley, who will be slightly disappointed with that qualifying position. Lucas Styko for Douglas Motorsport lines up in 13th alongside Suta Arau in 14th for High-Tech Pulse 8. David Morales in 15th place alongside Costa Taparis in 16th. 17th on the grid is another Chris Dittman car of Arthur Rojon alongside Max Esterson for Fortec Motorsport. In 19th place we have Gerard Shee with for Hill Speed and Edward Pearson in 20th. And as we get to the last couple of the rows of grid, John Bennett will be very disappointed with that qualifying position, and Sean Rashid in 22nd place. Daniel Mavlyatov is alone on the final row of the grid in 23rd place for hill speed. 23 cars on the grid, all, well, I think it was top 16 cars covered by second, and if you ignore Matthew Rees, who was 2/10 clear at the front of the field, it was down to like 18th place or something, whereas second, it's so close, especially considering how long this Silverstone Grand Prix circuit is.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. That is so competitive. You find a little bit of time and you shop the order that much. It really shows how important qualifying is, how important those 2 days of testing and practice are to get up to speed.
Yeah, talking about testing though, Timek Kuharczyk was basically the pace setter in almost every session, and if not, then he was right up there in the sessions he wasn't fastest. And in qualifying, he actually had the fastest sectors put together, but didn't quite put his fastest lap together, or all those sectors together for one lap. So I expect him to have great pace, and we've seen how much he can overtake him. Of course, last time we were here, he got pole position and then got that taken away from him and made a number of manoeuvres. I think he went up 10 positions twice on lap 1. So from 4th place, he can't go up that many positions, but he could be definitely challenging. And we know he doesn't hold back with his overtakes.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the one to watch in this race, just by his pace over the last couple of days. As you just said, he's been topping the times. I think it was only really the last session I can think of where someone went ahead, which was Cresswell. So, on that note, Cresswell probably as well, just because of his pace over the last couple of days.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that the Elite Motorsport team always seem to go so well here. I remember last year Tom Leben had, I think, a couple of wins here and a few podiums. But yeah, Mackenzie Cresswell is in good form. At high speed, sort of flat circuits like Spa, Silverstone, that Elite Motorsport car seems to work really well.
Yeah, they clearly have a setup that they found that works. As you said last year, Leben had a really great race where I think he won one. I think he came in the top 3 of the other or so. So, definitely quite big to live up to and to try and do the same.
But looking towards the front of the field, the camera is now on Matthew Rees, our pole sitter, by 2.5 tenths, which I've mentioned a moment ago, or nearly 2.5 tenths, which is impressive considering how close the rest of the field was. That JHR team, you've actually raced for JHR in this very championship for a couple of rounds a few seasons ago. It's amazing to see how far they've come in just a couple of years. Yeah,
it is. They've done a really, really great job last couple of years. This team, it's a mega team, and they've done really well. Pole by that margin in such a close championship when everyone else is so tight. That they were quite dominant here as well last time we came. They were they were so quick. It looked like Loke had almost a softer compounder tyre compared to everyone else. So
yeah, he had so much grip. I remember on the first couple of laps he was really getting stuck in. Clearly that tyre warm-up procedure was going well for him, and he'll probably actually be slightly disappointed to be starting 5th, even though he's 5th is a good qualifying position, because he was nearly 3.5 tenths down his teammate, and I don't believe I've seen that much of a gap between them almost at any point this season. They've been almost inseparable, those two, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. The thing is with Silverstone as well, there's such a drop-off with the tyres that often it's quite decided on those early laps, so you never know what happened. He might have, been too close to a car in front and got dirty air. I'm sure everyone will have some kind of reason why it didn't play out exactly how it wanted to, apart from Rees. We'll see what happens now in the race. Now it matters. This is where the points come.
Right, let's turn our attention to the start of the race now. Of course, Matthew Rees starting off pole position alongside Mackenzie Cresswell. You'll be able to pick out Cresswell in the darker black car with the yellow stripe. And then in 3rd place, Timek Kuharczyk is in the all-blue car. His teammate is in shot right now. That is Lucas Styko. And then in 4th place, the mostly sort of dark blue with orange flashes of Callum Voisin will be on 4th place. Callum, we also know, can overtake. We saw some great overtakes around here. He still is yet to win a race this season, and I think it's a when, not if, but he's doing a great job of staying in the championship hunt. And then also, of course, Joseph Loke in another grey car, but with the Union Jack on the shark fin. And then Alex Dunn, our current championship leader in the High-Tech Pulsar all grey car in 6th place. So the top 6. Max, pick a winner.
I'm going to go with Kucharczyk. He's just been so fast in testing that, although I think Rees had an amazing qualifying performance, I think it's going to be very close between those two.
That's a bold choice for Kucharczyk for the win. I think it's going to be Matthew Rees. I think he'll have a good start and pull away at the front, because even though it is an overtaking, a circuit you can overtake at, if you don't make any mistakes, then it does make it hard. So all the cars now lining up on the grid. We're just waiting for the green flag at the back of the field, which is being waved. So the 5-second board comes out. Engine revs begin to rise. Everyone looking at the lights. They'll come on in a moment. And as soon as they go out, we are racing for the first time this weekend at Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. A slow start for someone at the back. Matthew Rees holds the lead into turn 1, but Kuharczyk looks like he's had a good start right on the back. Actually, no, Voisin's overtaken Kuharczyk as Mackenzie Cresswell bumps over the curves on the inside. It looks like it's going to be side by side, potentially going into Maggots and Beckett's as we're nearly 2 or 3 wide in the middle of the field. No, Matthew Rees has managed to hold the lead as that is Headley going side by side with Oliver Stewart in the back of the shot. I think Stewart managed to get around the outside. Waberski going side by side with Nico Christodoulou, who's going to come out on top there. As it looks like Waberski dropped 2 wheels on the grass, but an excellent first sector for Matthew Rees for now. And Mackenzie Cresswell's looking in his mirrors. Yes, confirmed that Voisin has managed to make it past Kuharczyk, although Kuharczyk's looking up the inside of Stowe.
Yeah, that was really exactly what Rees needs to do. Great start. He didn't even have to look in his mirrors, just go. A big battling there towards the end of the field, and look, Voisin's still having to defend. It's not over. Yeah,
we know we've had previous between Kuharczyk and Voisin, of course, at Snetterton. Kuharczyk has made an attempt for the leaders. Oh no! That is the 2 Carlin cars. That is Taparis into the side of Bennett. That is not going to be a good debrief. It looked like a very, very late lunge there from Taparis. Well, hopefully, potentially, you have a look at that again, but that was, yeah, into the right of club. Is not a normal overtaking opportunity.
No, that, to be honest, that wasn't ever going to be on that kind of an overtake. You just can't do it. It's not a big break enough.
Yeah, there we go, looking at Loke and that is Zach Taylor in the red, yellow and black car of the Chris Dittman Racing. Loke's gone backwards at the start. I can't exactly see where he is at the moment. Loke's down into 5th place, so 1 place down potentially. Oh no, actually that's where he started. Zach Taylor's actually had a good start by the looks of it, and now he's challenging Loke. Loke going to the outside. Zach Taylor's got an overlap on the inside. Looks like Taylor has made it past by the apex, but Loke will be looking for the cutback going out, and now we're in Luffield. Loke has got back through on the exit, so clearly Taylor winning very hot, and now Noah Ping is right there. No, that's Christodoulou, sorry, my mistake. Noah Christodoulou's right under the rear wing of Zach Taylor, and then Ping's right behind him as well. 3 wide into turn 1 is not where you want to be doing.
No, it's going to be close. I think he's going to get it.
Yes, Ping.
Yeah, he's done it.
Christodoulou is through, and can Ping follow him as Zach Taylor goes wide, and will get a lot of marbles on his tyres there, offline out, off the, going wide at turn 1. There's a lot of dirty rubber and bits of rubber that will get on your tyres, and that will hurt you through this middle sector. Yeah, we'll start to see it slightly settle down now. Now they're getting into a bit of a rhythm. The dirty air will start playing into effect as they now built the speed up with the, they should all have very good heat in their tyres now. Yeah. And here comes Headley on the charge. Yeah, Headley on the back of his teammate. That's Headley in the green helmeted number 4 car. Number 3 in the foreground of shot is Noah Ping. They're teammates for the Arden VRD team. They've had a decent showing this weekend. Headley has been a bit disappointed with his pace in testing, but is now showing well in the race. He's right under the rear wing. They won't want to make the mistake that the 2 Rodin Carlin cars did a lap ago. Hopefully they've both managed to continue on. We haven't seen that yet, but that's Ping going wide on the exit club. Hasn't seemed to hurt him too much, but Headley is going to be right in the slipstream now. Yeah, he's no reason to really defend into Abbey, as we just saw he pulled back as it's just such a fast, flat-out corner, but might have to watch his mirrors now going into this section. Yes, Stewart is right under the rear wing of Headley as well, so that's sort of a 3 or 4 way fight there for the last places in the top 10 positions. We're now looking back at the battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, which was, in that order, is Voisin, Kuharczyk, Dunn, Loke and Taylor. Taylor's actually been overtaken by Christodoulou, as we saw earlier on this lap, so that has an update on the timing, but it looks like the closest fight in the top 4 or 5 positions is Kuharczyk on the back of Voisin once again, similar to we saw at Snetterton, but of course at Snetterton it was for positions 1 and 2. Yeah, and what Tim Mack seems to be doing quite well is he's moving that front wing around to try and give himself a little bit of clean air to get that run into Voisin. When you say moving that front wing around, what do you mean by that, Max? What is Kuharczyk actually doing in the car, and why would he be doing that? He's basically not taking what would be the ideal line that Voisin is, just to try and give a bit of free air onto the front wing, and that will just give him that little bit more grip to be able to hopefully get back in the tow and attack. If he tries to follow him directly, you're just going to wash out. Yeah, of course, some corners like the entry to Maggots and Beckett's, he won't have a choice, but longer corners potentially like Chapel, he might be going a little bit wider of the apex and maybe just moving out of the direct wheel track to the car in front, because I suppose it's because this sort of still and unturbulent air has a lot more, or it's a lot more efficient at creating downforce than the air that's been thrown up by the car in front, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. We can see through this first sector here, you just can't really do much. He seems to have a little bit more pace, but
a little bit more isn't going to be good enough.
Yep, talking of pace, Matthew Rees has set the fastest lap of the race so far, a 54.0 at the front of the field, closely followed by Cresswell, who is about a tenth and a half slower. And then the rest of the field is pretty much in the high 54s and low 55s. The gaps between drivers is almost nothing. You know, it's a second, just over a second for the lead, and then every gap between that and then Bennett down in 22nd place is less than a second. So it's pretty much nose-to-tail racing, as we can see in this shot right here.
Yeah, and that just makes it even harder to be doing overtakes. When the field is this close, it makes it so difficult. You know, you're going to see almost like less action because the cars can't get a run on each other because they're breaking at the perfect points, getting the power at the perfect points. It makes it so difficult.
Yeah, we saw Kuharczyk, Timek in that blue car there, the light blue car behind Voisin in the dark blue and black car of the Rodin Carlin, taking a different line through Village in the loop. Again, just trying to get his front wing out of the dirty air, but also maybe trying to set up for a good exit down the Wellington Straight as we see a battle further down the field. That is Waberski looking around the outside of Oliver Stewart, or is it Stewart trying to go right the inside of Waberski? And then Max Esterson is Waberski's Fortec teammate trying to get involved as well. Despite them being teammates, they're still racing, of course, very much for themselves. It looks like Waberski is now under pressure from Esterson as Esterson goes outside. Potentially Waberski with a bit of a straight line speed issue, or do you reckon it was just a bad exit?
I think a bit of a bad exit, and then Esterson managed to get the toe from the car in front, so it was just pulling him, although he's dropped back quite a bit.
It does look like Waberski's slower than he probably should be, because he's dropped almost 2 places in as many corners. He's got back up to speed now as Suta Arau in the Red Bull liveried car for High-Tech Pulse 8 is the car next on his tail. So we'll see how he gets on down the Hangar Straight, but Waberski dropping 2 or 3 places in 2 or 3 corners, potentially maybe even just some dirty or some dirt on the tyres and some marbles.
Could be, but it looks like definitely Arau's getting more of a punch than what he is off of Esterson.
Yeah, that's Stewart now on the back of... Is that Stewart? Yeah, that is Stewart on the back of Headley. So Headley's dropped off the back of that group in front of his teammate Noah Ping and is struggling a bit for pace, but Stewart, having just got past Jared Waberski, is already on the back of Voisin, so clearly got some good pace in that Elite Motorsport car. We spoke to him just before the start of the race and he was really confident. He said he didn't extract all the pace he potentially wanted to out of the car, and he knows the car's one of the quickest out there. Of course, his teammate Cresswell currently still in second, setting very, very fast pace lap times at the front, and Stewart trying to get as close to him. What is Stewart's first full season in car racing, I believe.
Yeah, he is doing a really good job. You know, we saw him take that win at Spa not that long ago, and now he's knocking on the door of the top 10 in a feature race. So yeah, that's big improvement over 2 rounds.
It's definitely good to see drivers like this who are not so experienced in the championship, see the progress as they go through the years. Start the year at the back of the field, which is what to be expected, but then as they get used to the car, the team, the circuits, and how to prepare the tyres, how to build a race weekend. As we see Loke going very wide on the exit there, they sort of move up the grid as the year goes on and hopefully come back next year for an even stronger season.
Yeah, exactly. I think they should be basing. This is a learning formula. You got to be basing it as like a 2-year program. Yeah. To be building and to be learning. Yeah. Like if you're not learning the lessons and you try and rush the process, that can often lead to, like you won't suddenly find it if you go to FIA 3. You have to learn the lessons here and then apply it.
Well, that's how the single-seater ladder works, isn't it? You have to learn as you go, and as much as results are important, you need to make sure that you are learning along the way. And I actually mentioned that it was Oliver Stewart's first season in car racing. It's not, actually. That was a mistake. I was thinking of another driver. Of course, Oliver Stewart last year finished 10th in British F4 with a few podiums and a win. Yeah, he's got some experience, but only 1 season in single seaters in any other championship, and then moved up to GB3, which is a big step up from a Formula 4 car. These cars are really, really fast these days.
Yeah, they are. I think Taylor, he had his first day in one only a couple of days ago.
Nicholas Taylor, GB4 champion last year.
Exactly, and he was saying the big difference, the big speed difference, the cornering speed. Like he said in the damp conditions in his very first session, he was up there, top 6. And then he had to then learn when it got fully dry, actually, like, okay, what can the aero of this car actually do? Yeah,
and the slick tyres, because these cars with the aero and the slick tyres, they're pulling well over 2.5, potentially towards 3 Gs in the corners like Brooklands, Maggots and Beckett's, the high-speed corners with all the downforce on. And it's really physical driving these cars. I mean, I mentioned it on the track walk, I think, but going into this corner here, Brooklands, when you're going in at probably 140 miles an hour, braking and turning at the same time, it's still at high speed, the steering really loads up, and you're almost limited, if you're not physically fit enough, by the strength of your arms and shoulders than by the car itself.
Yeah, exactly. And even, the the famous Maggots and Beckett section. It's non-stop. It's not just one long corner. It's 2, 3, 4 in a row. It's very tough.
On both your arms and shoulders, but also the neck of the drivers, because of course you're strapped down very, very strongly over the shoulders to keep you solid within the car, not only for so you can feel everything the car is doing, but also if in the event of an accident, then you're completely contained within the vehicle. But that means that the only thing holding your head and helmet up is of course those neck muscles, which in everyday life don't really get used very much. These drivers will be doing specific training for that.
Yeah, exactly. And it is really, really tough. So you need, once you get to this point in GB3, in the fours you can get away with it a little bit. It's not so tough on the necks, but this is such a step up. The cornering speeds are so high and your head is so exposed. You need it.
Yep. Well, the race has settled down for now, as everyone's just trying to find the positions or trying to push on to the cars in front. And we'll just do a quick run through of the order as it stands. So Matthew Rees is pulling away, definitely our fastest driver on the circuit right now, pulling 2.5 seconds, 2.7 seconds as it stands. Mackenzie Cresswell in second place. Then Callum Voisin for Rodin Carlin in third, which would be another podium for him, good for his championship fight. Then Kuharczyk in fourth, Dunn in fifth, our championship leader up one place as Locust dropped down to sixth from where he started in fifth. Then Christodoulou, who we saw getting past Zach Taylor, who is in 8th. Then 9th is Ping, Headley 10th, Stewart 11th, Eston 12th, Arau 13th, Styko 14th, Morales 15th, Rojon in 16th for Chris Dittman Racing, 17th Rashid, 18th Shi, 19th is Pearson, 20th is Daniel Mavliatov, which means that we have lost Jared Boberski, so there clearly was an issue with that car somewhere, or something was not quite right, as he was up inside the top 10 at one point.
Yeah, very disappointing for Jared. After a good qualifying, making sure he was in the top 10, and unfortunately, it happens. It's motorsport. But looking at his teammate Esterson right on the back of Stewart, this is a very good comeback drive from where he started.
Oh, 100%. It's a great drive from Stewart. I think he's really showing that he's got some confidence in that car at the start of the year, potentially just taking things slowly, which is what you should do, because I think he's planning this year to sort of be a learning year in GB3, and then next year potentially move up to maybe the #1 spot in that team, or who knows, he may move teams. We don't know what goes on in the off season. A lot of deals go on, I'm sure, but Stewart's showing really well at the moment, and he's now applying the pressure once again to our championship hopeful, which is James Headley in that car, number 4. As it seems moving around on the exit of Chapel there, that won't help his exit. There we are, Jared Boberski. Unfortunately, looks like some issue at the rear of the car. They're just checking some bolts and making sure that it's all good. They'll try and get him back out on circuit, even though there won't be a result there, Max. Why would they do that?
Well, they do it because, I think everyone does score a point for just finishing. So you got to just get back out there and make sure you score the points. Whether you decide to save the tyres or maybe use it as like a practice session, that's up to you. But probably he'll just be thinking, well, if I'm just going out for one lap, I'll just do a slow lap, keep the tyres, nice, so that they're ready for the next race.
Yeah, and of course, also just testing whatever, if they've made a fix, whatever they're testing is actually made the difference, so they can sort of be a bit more informed in between the races. Because just the one race today, we had qualifying this morning and then race 1. We have race 2, which is coming up tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning it will be it's a second. The grid is set by the second fastest lap time for qualifying. You see Boberski back out on circuit. Looked like that was going to be a move. No, not quite. Looked like Oliver Stewart was looking up the inside of Headley into the loop, but that has given him a poor exit. And now Max Esterson in that white and red car for Fortec is looking up the inside. He's got an overlap, so he's looking up the inside past the BRDC clubhouse on the right-hand side towards Brooklands. And look who's behind them. That's Suter Arau going to try and pick up the pieces. Not quite. Actually, yes, Eston has managed to get that move done, so it shows you how quickly you can go from offence to defence, and one missed opportunity in trying to overtake Headley has meant that he's gone back one place, has Stewart.
Exactly, and Edson knows this side of the circuit very, very well. He was the on-track winner of the Water Haze last year.
Of course.
I think some would argue the real winner.
Yes.
So he knows this part of the circuit extremely well. He knows where to do the overtakes, and yeah, he's doing extremely well from starting at 18th now up into the top 10.
Yeah, of course, Max Esterson has a lot of experience on simulators. He's sponsored by iRacing, you'll see it on the side of his car, but also has a lot of experience in other cars. He's driven Formula 4s a lot in the UK, and you mentioned the Water Haze Trophy, which is an annual Formula Ford race that goes on every year, and he won that on the road last year. I won't go into any more details than that. There was some after-race penalties that were applied, but he was clearly very quick in that. So not only is he quick in a GB3 car, but also in a GB3 car. But as we see, that is the recovering John Bennett looking around the outside of the number 39 Gerard Shee, who's that white hill speed car. Of course, Bennett contact was made between him and his teammate Costas Taparis earlier in the race, and now he's just trying to claw back any points that he can. He's got past Daniel Mavlyatov in the other hills. Oh no, contact! That is contact between Sean Rashid, who must have clattered into the back of, that must have been Artur Rojan potentially, and lost his front wing and stranded in the middle of the road, and that has slowed them both up. So there's now a three-way fight down there for, it will be now 18th position. So that looks like she's still ahead of Mavlyatov, and Bennett's actually lost out in that.
Yeah, I have to say Bennett, though, I think is 2 laps down, I believe, from the timing.
Oh,
so,
of course.
So I think he's just trying to...
I didn't catch that. Good spot, Max. Good
pull
spot.
back. But yeah, that looked like there was some very tight back there. Still is. Looks like Eston's going for another move into this sector.
It's a Headley now, so Eston's clearly got some pace in the second half of this race. He's doing almost a mirror image move than he did on the lap before on Oliver Stewart. So Headley going backwards. Esterson up another place. That will now be Esterson into the top 10, which will be, he'll be so relieved with that. He's had such a difficult start to the season. We saw how fast he was here last year in a different team. He raced for Douglas last year, moved to Fortec this year in the hopes of a championship challenge, but he's had a torrid time. You know, we know how fast he can be, not only in Formula Fords, but also at this circuit in GB3, and he's really, really struggled. But a top 10 hopefully will give him the momentum that he needs to push on for the second half of the year. Yeah,
exactly. Like he's having a great race, you know, starting from 18th up into the top 10, you know, as we were speaking about, I think he's the biggest mover, isn't he? I don't think
potentially, yes, potentially the biggest mover. Yeah, and he's kind of played, it's quite a mature race. He's kind of let the race come to him a little bit, hasn't he? As we now see Stewart and Headley going to battle once again. Of course, Mesterton's made his way past both of them. They were fighting earlier on in the race as Rashid comes in for a front wing change. He's ultimately not going to do a huge amount. We are on the last lap of the race now. So they'll just be going out to check everything's okay, I imagine. But hopefully we'll cut back to that battle shortly between Eston and Ping. That is... Who's that am I looking at? Number 77, that's Morales getting past Lucas Steico, I believe. Yes, it is. So, Morales has now made his way past Steico. That's a move down for 14th position. So, Morales from 15th to 14th. Steico losing out on the last lap of the race. We'll be trying to get that back in the village in the loop sections. We're now cutting back to the number 2. That's Nico Christodoulou, who is in 7th place, right on the back of Loke. So, Loke dropping back. Loke not quite having the pace of his teammate Matthew Rees at the front. Talking to Matthew Rees, he's probably coming around the last corner at the moment for what will be another very, very strong result, and I think his first win of the season. I'll just double check that before I confirm that, but there he is. Matthew Rees comes to win the race. A very dominant victory by almost 4.5 seconds at the line. That is completely dominant considering the gaps between the rest of the field is so small. Mackenzie Cresswell finishing in 2nd place, and another podium for Callum Voisin in 3rd. And Kuhachik has pushed him all the way in 4th place. We'll give you a full run through the results very shortly, but a strong showing from Matthew Rees, and it bodes well for race 2 tomorrow, where he starts on pole again.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's a bit of to the rest of the field, and that's quite a scary thing. Yeah, it is. It's a big statement to do that.
And set fastest lap of the race as well by
Grand Slam, isn't it?
By like 4 tenths of a second faster than anyone else on circuit. That JHR car in the hands of Matthew Rees really, really showing well. His teammate Joseph Loke also in the top 6. He was 6th place after losing 1 place out to Alex Dunn. Didn't seem to quite have the pace of his teammate Rees in that one. Potentially different tyre strategies though, we don't know.
Exactly. You're never quite sure what they've done with the tyres, but I have to say as well, like, you know, I think Voisin doing a very good job there, making sure he gets another podium. You know, points is what makes championships.
Absolutely.
And of course, Cresswell finishing in 2nd.
Talking of points, the championship standings before this race, Alex Dunn was leading the championship by, I believe it was 6 points ahead of Callum Voisin. So Callum Voisin will have clawed back a few points. It'll be very, very close. We had 3 changes for the championship lead in the 3 races at Snetterton. Dunn is going to hold it for another race, but it's going to be very, very close, and it's all going to... I'm loving the way the championship is shaping up. At the moment, it's sort of looking like a 3-horse race between Voisin, Dunn and Loke. Loke losing out a little bit in that one, so they're sort of Voisin and Dunn pulling away a little bit at the front, but Rees, if he can continue with the pace that we know he can show, you know, he had a couple of difficult races at the start of the season, but if he continues to bang in wins, because of course there are extra sort of bonus points for wins effectively in the championship, 35 points for a win, which then goes down to 29 for 2nd and 24 for 3rd. He could definitely bring himself back in contention by the end of the year.
Yeah, he really could. He's just got to be consistent. You know, incredible performance, but it's so hard to hold that level of consistency again and again and again over race after race.
That is what you need for a championship. I mean, you know it, Max, Mr. Consistency from GB4 last year. You were in the championship hunt right to the end of the year. I know, having not actually won a race, which is what Voisin's doing so far, but it's a good tactic because it clearly worked for you.
Inspired him.
Exactly, you inspired Callum Voisin, of course, with your driving in GB4 last year. And Max, it's great to have your input alongside me in these races this weekend, and we look forward to hearing more about the insights you can give us. But there we are, Matthew Rees pulling up in front of the first place board. That's a good feeling as a photographer nearly gets his ankle taken out by Mackenzie Cresswell in second place, Callum Voisin with another podium in third. And this is a great shot that we get to see the emotion from the drivers as they leave the car and seeing, you know, the hugs between the team, family, friends, and all of that. But yeah, Matthew Rees is a pretty chilled guy generally, so it doesn't tend to jump around, but he'll be definitely smiling under that helmet. Also, we didn't really chat about Mackenzie Cresswell a huge amount, who's in shot now. Another very strong result for him.
It is. He almost looks disappointed. You know, second is a good result. I know we're all here to win. That's what everyone's there to do. But you got to take these good days. You know, like it's a second place. You know, you can find that time. You can find that time that you're looking for tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Matthew Rees is looking pretty imperious at the front of the field, winning by 4.5 seconds with fastest lap. There you go, the team giving him a nice little high five and a hug for the good job. Callum Voisin looks pretty happy with that. I don't think he minds, you know, not winning every race. I mean, he hasn't won a race this year yet, which is, again, surprising to me, but that is the situation we're in. But he's had so many podiums. Another podium for Callum Voisin, just showing how consistent he's being, and it really is a mature season so far.
Yeah, exactly. As we just spoke, you know, it's what you need. It's exactly what you need.
Yeah, there we go. We're going to have a word with the drivers very, very shortly. You can see the drivers shaking hands there. I believe James is down there on the grid, and we'll be shortly grabbing a word with, hopefully, our race winner, Matthew Rees.
Matthew, you've won at Silverstone. How does it feel?
It took long enough, yeah. It was nice feeling. It's a really nice feeling. We've been strong here in previous rounds. I think the pace just wasn't there before. Now we have a car and driver to do it. I think we've really performed this weekend. Yeah, pretty good start. Probably a bit more in it, but yeah, happy to take it.
Piers mentioned it on commentary. You're acting very chilled and very, you know, calm and collected on the inside. I can see family behind you are ecstatic for you. This victory must mean a lot for you in your hunt potentially for a spot at the top of the championship come the end of the year.
Yeah, I think it's helped because, well, we haven't done it before. It's monkey off your back because I haven't won this year, so it's good for that. Unfortunately, we can't think about championship now. We're a bit behind, but it's a good start. We've got tomorrow, which we can gain some more points as well, and reverse grid, so we'll see what we can do with that.
We'll see what the rest of the weekend holds for you. Matthew Rees, you are the winner of race 1 for this weekend, but we're going to grab second place. How are you feeling right now? You've just scored a podium at Silverstone. Not many people can say that.
Yeah, mixed emotions. It's a good result for sure, especially given the rough few weekends that we've had. But yeah, I wanted the win. I'm a racing driver. I come here to win, but we were second best today. That's how it was. Matt was very fast. I couldn't stay with him. I knew from like lap 2 that I wouldn't be able to catch him. He was just extending that gap a little bit every lap. So from then I was just managing the gap behind. Just tried to get a decent gap at the start and then just kind of manage it from there. But yeah, car was good, but we just didn't quite have the pace of JHR today. But I think we'll look at it overnight and hopefully come back tomorrow and we'll be able to compete with them.
Mackenzie, I can see the disappointment in your face, but I know that you can come back strong and you can have a really strong Sunday as well. This won't have put you off at all, this second place, will it? You will be hungry more than ever to get a podium, won't you, again tomorrow in both races?
Yeah, exactly. You can overtake around here, so if we have the pace, then there's no reason that we can't win the race tomorrow. So I'm going to be going for it 100%, and as you said, it's not to my confidence. So I'll come back tomorrow and push even harder and hope for a better result.
Well, Mackenzie Cresswell, it's still a podium. You should still be pleased with yourself. Congratulations. Well, we're now going to go and find none other than Callum Voisin, who's finished P3. Sorry, slurping away on your drink. I'm going to interrupt you whilst you're slurping away. I do apologise. You've just scored a podium at Silverstone. I'm leading with that with every driver because it's such a big feat to achieve, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, for me, well, it's not my first time, but no, very happy. I mean, you know, especially after the setback we got at Snet, you know, could have been my first race win. To come back with a podium straight off the bat is amazing. And, you know, the progress we've made since testing is also, you know, all thanks to these guys at Road and Carlin, because, yeah, we were struggling a bit and we've brought it back. So, yeah, very happy.
And you must be pleased with a little jump up from your qualifying position start as well. Do you reckon you could bring that into Sunday for both races again? Can we see 2 more podiums from you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I finally cracked it at the starts, but no, I mean, I don't want to tempt fate. I think, you know, we still got to keep pushing and keep working hard, and yeah, the results will come. yeah, starting P4 tomorrow, see what we can do. Hopefully we can replicate that.
Awesome. Well, I'm not going to hold you up any longer. You've got a podium to go to, you've got a trophy to collect, and some bubbles to spray on your friends and family. So off you go. Enjoy that, Callum. And well, we've had a fantastic first race. Let's check out those results now and see the official standings.
Car number 35, Callum Boyson. Well done, Callum. Up onto the third step he goes. Big smile on his face as John presents the trophy.
So let's run through the results as they were. Matthew Rees, of course, won the race with Mackenzie Cresswell in second place, 4.5 seconds behind. Third place, Callum Voisin for Rodin Carlin, just a second or so behind him. And then Timothy Kuharczyk in fourth place. Fifth place, Alex Dunn. And then sixth place was Joseph Loke. Seventh, Krista Dulu. And eighth, Zach Taylor. Ninth was Noah Ping. And then 10th for Max Esterson. We saw him move through the field in that one. 11th place, we had James Headley, and then in 12th, we had Oliver Stewart, who went backwards a little bit. 13th, Suta Arau. 14th, David Morales. 15th, Lucas Staiko. 16th, Arthur Rojon. 17th, Gerard Shee. 18th, John Bennett after contact with his teammate earlier on in the race. Pearson in 19th. Taparis, of course, involved in that incident as well in 20th. Then rounding out the field was 21st with Daniel Mavliatov, Sean Rashid in 22nd after contact in the last lap or last couple of laps. And then unfortunately, after coming into the pits for an issue, Jared Boberski was finished a lap down in 23rd. So that was the first race of the weekend. Join us again tomorrow morning for another round of the GB3 Championship. We'll see you then.